So there's lots and lots of excitement on forums, most of it negative has to be said, about the changes to the overmatch mechanics that are being tested on the test server at the moment with 917. So essentially what it means is that in the past you would auto-penetrate any armor that you overmatched in terms of caliber by 3 times. So if you had 30 millimeters of armor and you hit it with a 90 millimeter plus shell, doesn't matter what the angle was or anything else, you would go through it and do full damage. Now, why that's important is that some tanks are extremely weak at side scraping. Some of them are, because of this very weak side armor, means if they slightly turn their side on, they can't really bounce anything because of the overmatching system. Other tanks like the IS-3 have a really weak section of their roof. So just above the gun, everyone probably knows this, but just above the gun on the IS-3 is a panel, and I guess originally it was to help load shells into the tank, or maybe it was just part of the gun mechanics. But whatever it is, it is there, and if you shoot it, it has only 30 millimeters of armor, and so that means that any tank that can hit that will go straight through it if it's 90 millimeters or bigger, which has always been one of the big weak spots on the IS-3. Now, with the changes to the or proposed changes to the overmatch mechanics that they're testing out on the test server at the moment, that would all go away. So the impact of the shell would no longer automatically go through if it overmatches in that way. The angling of the armor would basically prevent it penetrating. So there's no auto pens in the same way that there are at the moment on the main server. Rather than me waffle about it, let me just show you a video that somebody posted which explains this rather well.
Take a look at the Object 140. Now, in 9.16 and before 9.16, the Object 140 was balanced by its very weak turret roof and engine deck. It is 30 millimeters, and any gun over 90 millimeters of caliber can overmatch it. As you can see right now, I'm easily overmatching the 140 with the FE215B on the engine deck and also the turret roof. But now, in 9.17, it's not going to happen. With an FE215B, I'm auto-bouncing all of these angles. Okay, the Object 140's armor was significantly buffed in this update. But what does that mean? The Object 140 has better frontal armor than the 6208 because of better angling. The Object 140 has angled side armor, which is better than the 6208's flat side armor. The Object 140 has 1 degree more depression, and the Object 140 has 6 kilometers more top speed. The Object 140 is better than the 6208 in literally every regard except for the turret armor. But after this update, after 9.17, I don't see the Object 140's turret being a major problem anymore. So what does this mean? The Object 140 and T62A are balanced before, but now the Object 140 is clearly a stronger tank, and this means Wargaming has to nerf the DPM on the Object 140 so that it can compare it to the 62A, or buff the DPM on the T62A, or buff the 62A's mobility or something to make it more equal to the Object 140. This is one of the many unforeseen changes that really, unless you look into the details, you're not really going to notice until you see it. Another example are tanks like the Batchat. The Batchat has around 30 millimeters of side armor, okay? And that means you can overmatch the Batchat with pretty much any gun, whether it's a tier 10 medium gun, which is 105 millimeters or 100 millimeters for the Russians, or a 120 millimeter gun from a tier 10 heavy tank. But now, the Batchat is a lot stronger because guess what? The Batchat is a very small tank, making it very difficult to hit. So I would say almost 25% of shells that land on a Batchat relies on overmatching. But now after this update, the Batchat just got a lot stronger. It's gonna bounce a lot more. Is that really what we want? I mean, the Batchat, I wouldn't say it's overpowered or underpowered, but this update is gonna make the Batchat a lot stronger.
So anyway, you get the point here that effectively it's a massive upgrade to light to armed vehicles because of this change to the system. So, and primarily it seems that they brought this in because of the Swedish tanks that are coming to the game. So the kind of, I guess the sort of the sort of feel of the Swedish tanks, generally they are very, very lightly armoured. You know, even the top tier TD has 50 millimeters of frontal armour. So they're very lightly armoured, generally fairly quick vehicles with a very, very good gun. So clearly they wouldn't stand up to much in a normal battlefield. So what they've changed is this mechanic in a way to give them a better chance, because a lot of their vehicles are extremely well angled. I was playing a tier 10 game with the tier 10 TD, the SS tank, and as I say, it has 50 millimeters of frontal armor, and I was taking on TDs and heavy tanks in it and bouncing shells off the front. They couldn't pen me frontally, and I was firing on my equivalent tank and I couldn't penetrate him. So it's clearly that's why this has been brought in, but the consequences are huge. All those tanks that are out there that have extremely weak side armor or extremely weak turrets, or just very weak general armor but actually quite well angled, suddenly get a massive boost and buff. And heavier armoured tanks by default therefore get a nerf. Tanks like the IS-3 that have a weak spot that is well angled suddenly become much better than they were already. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Wargaming do about this, because clearly the Swedish line is predicated on this change, because without that they become really tough to have any kind of survivability on the battlefield, because they're just so thin armor wise. So watch this space, see what happens. It's certainly got people rattled. So that's an interesting feature that the Daily Bounce reports. That is a premium rental service. So I kind of think North America have had something similar up till now, but it tends to be just when they have a particular offer on. So a new tank's coming into the game, they'll offer it for rental for people for a period of time. Now Daily Bounce is suggesting this may become a more permanent feature, and potentially for all the tanks that there are, all the premiums. So you would have the opportunity to rent a tank for 7 or 30 days in exchange for a certain amount of gold, and if you then decided to buy the tank afterwards, you'd get a discount on the price depending on the period of rental you'd taken out. So interesting move. I think it's actually a good one, because I know we've all bought tanks that we thought, oh, this would be fabulous to play, and then you play it for a couple of weeks and you think, oh my god, I've got a pile of poo here. And the converse happens, you pick up a tank that you're not expecting to do terribly well in, or not, or even like, and it's absolutely fantastic and you love playing it. So I think it's good, but I think from a non-paying person, somebody who doesn't pay for anything into the game at all, it's probably going to infuriate people, because A, there'll be a hell of a lot more tanks, premiums on the battlefield. Particularly when a new tank comes out, you will see countless examples of them out there. Whereas at the moment you get a few days of a lot of them around on the battlefield, and then they also disappear as people go off and play other things again. Apart from the Scorpion, which obviously everyone keeps playing because it's OP as hell. So interesting move by Wargaming. What do you think? Would you use a rental? I think I might do. It'd save me buying tanks every time they bring a new one into the game, and I can do a video. Then I only have to buy the ones I really want. Interesting. Let me know what you think. I actually quite like this idea. We'll see whether it actually comes into the game. So some of the other changes that we've seen on the test server. First up, some of the buffs that are coming to some of the less popular or less well performing premium tanks in the game. So the FV4202, this tier 8 British medium tank. I personally love it. I think it's a fabulous tank, but it is a little slow, so they're buffing its speed. It's moving from 35 kph to 40 kph, which basically means it can keep up with things like Centurions, which is sensible. And the other thing which anybody who's got this tank will love is its profitability is going up, so you will get extra credits by a degree of 10% when you use this tank. If this, and again, this is a test server, so we don't know whether all these changes will be implemented, but it's likely that those ones will be, because they're not particularly devastating. So you get extra profitability, hopefully, if this is implemented into the game proper. So next up, the Panther 88, which is the German tier 8 medium tank. This one has a similar buff around its speed, or traverse speed, sorry. So it'll now do 40 degrees per second instead of 38, which is always helpful. And also it's getting a whole new engine, so it will move from a 600 horsepower engine to a 700 horsepower engine. So that means its speed goes up to 46 and 20 in reverse, which is great as well. I always found this tank was kind of nice, but the trouble with it, once you get spotted, it tends to get killed because of its lack of armour. Whereas if you've got a bit more speed, you've got a chance to get away. So yeah, be interesting to see how that one works out. One of the ones that's got most people talking about it is the changes to the Löwe, or the Lion, which is this tier 8 German heavy tank. So there is a considerable buff to its lower plate, and also to its front plate, I believe. And also, so let's have a look, its armour becomes 130 at the front, 100 at the side, and 80 at the rear, 120 on the turret, 80 and 80 on the turret, very well rounded. So yeah, that's useful, because this thing has definitely suffered from sort of server creep or tank creep. As new tanks have come into the game, it's been left behind in terms of its performance, so better armour is to be welcomed. They're also improving its gun depression, so it's moving from 8 degrees of gun depression to 10, which is pretty useful as well. So hopefully that will make it a much better sort of ridge-side warrior than it is at the moment. So next up for changes is the Wheezy 111, which is the tier 8 Chinese heavy tank, premium heavy tank. This thing was originally only available by doing a very lengthy mission in the game, and then I think last Christmas they sold it for anybody who just wanted to buy it, and it suffers. It's much weaker than all the other tier 8 heavies. So the IS-3, for instance, is so much better than this thing. So they're giving it some quite significant buffing. So it will have a better accuracy during movement, so firing on the move will improve by 13%. Accuracy when you traverse the hull will also improve by 13%. Dispersion of the gun goes down from 0.46 to 0.44, so that all will help in terms of accuracy. Indeed, the accuracy itself during the gun itself during turret traverse will be increased by 14%, and aim time will go from 3.4 to 3, which is pretty impressive. You can see I've got on mine I've got vertical stabilizers, so it's 2.81. So with a decent crew and equipment, you'll be getting this aim time down into something much more realistic as a gun, and will mean it perform much better than previously. They're also increasing the engine power from 520 horsepower to 600, and also there's some buffs to the armour as well, better frontal armour and better lower plate armour, particularly the lower plate, which was a huge weak spot in this tank. So interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see how much better they make this Wheezy, because you do not see many of them on the battlefield. You really don't. So yeah, be interesting to see what we get out of this one if these changes come through to the live server. So another vehicle that will get a little bit of wargaming love if this patch is implemented is the tier 8 French medium tank, the M4A1 Revolution or Revolver. or baguette. I don't know. No, not baguette. That's the CDC. Anyway, whatever. So again, one of those tanks that just doesn't really perform as well as you kind of hope it will. So they're improving a lot of things on this. So improved accuracy during movement and during hull traverse by 11%, which is pretty good. Dispersion of the gun will go from 0.36 to 0.35, so that's not a massive change, but that's always better. Accuracy of the gun during turret traverse will go up by 19%, so it'll be much better at swinging the turret and reacquiring a target, which is good because at the moment the radical just balloons. The aim time generally will go from 2.8 to 2.4, which is lovely. Better engine power from 460 to 550, which means the speed will be considerably better. They've also changed it from a diesel to a gasoline tank engine, so that probably means the chances of fire go up because gasoline burns easier. Chance of fire 15%. Okay, so I'm not sure what it was before, but it's going to be a gasoline engine as opposed to a diesel. And also a big thing for this tank is the gun depression. It goes from -7 to -10. So you've got a better gun, better accuracy, better rate. Well, you acquire the target much quicker because the radical won't balloon as much as it previously did when you maneuver in any sense at all. So this thing should become a lot more effective as a vehicle. And finally, the STA 2, which is the Japanese Tier 8 medium tank, premium medium tank. This has had a lot of love in the previous patches, so it's had at least one really significant buff. And clearly that wasn't enough, so they've changed it again and they're increasing its speed, but quite a lot actually. So it's going 45 kph to 55 kph, so you get an extra 10 horsepower or 10 kph in this vehicle, which is really welcome. Chance of fire when you get hit in the engine drops from 15 to 12%, so again that's always welcome. And the actual engine power goes from 500 to 570, so basically you've got a much more mobile medium tank, which is really good. This is one of the ones that doesn't have any armour, so yeah, that'll be interesting to see, because if that change does come in with the ricochets, this may become even more effective because suddenly it gets a little bit of armour, something it's never had before. So obviously all these changes that they're putting into the test server at the moment are subject to change. There's no guarantee that it'll all be implemented as they stand. They may do some, they may do none, they may do them all, but just shows us where Wargaming are going, and also shows you which are the least performing according to statistics, I can't say that word, thanks to the game, because these are the ones that they're looking to buff.